Hey everyone, so let's get started. And if anyone joins in the meantime, he or she's more than welcome. So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on our next session of our Strategic HR webinar series. Our focus for today is on a hot topic for strategic HR talent retention. Actually, a lot of organizations are talking about it nowadays. So today we're going to see how to get a grip around talent retention with data analytics. But before we jump in, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. As always, we want to make this session as interactive as possible. So we're going to run some polls during the session. But unfortunately, the platform that we have been using so far is not working smoothly with Microsoft Teams, so we changed to another one. But this will be the first time we are using it, so allow us if there are some technical hiccups. We hope there won't be, but just in any case. Anyhow, when the poll is up, you will need to click and vote. It's going to be as simple as that. The answers are anonymous, so no one will see your answers, not even myself. So no need to worry about this again. During the call, we're going to keep everyone muted and camera off just to avoid background noises and distraction. But feel free to drop any questions you may have in the chat box as we carved out some time for a Q&A in the end, when I will also unmute everyone or allow the microphones so you can unmute yourself during the Q&A. I don't have Esther on the call right now because she's unfortunately sick. Get well, Esther. But I'm going to try to manage everyone. Mark is here to help me with the technical stuff. The call is scheduled for 90 minutes, and we're going to make sure to finish on time and be respectful of your lunchtime at the end of the week. And last but not least, everyone who registered will get a certificate of completion, which will be awarded after the call sent to you by email as always. And we are recording the call as always again, so you will be able to rewatch it on our YouTube channel together with our previous sessions. Any questions so far before we jump in? If you have, please put it in the chat. Okay, I assume this is a no. So let's see what we have in front of us for today. We will cover the following things in the next 90 or 70 minutes and 20 minutes for Q&A. First, we're going to understand what talent retention is. Why do people leave organizations nowadays? What are the current trends that we see in the market? Then we're going to talk about why it's important to invest in talent retention. What is the business case of talent retention investments for CEOs? Then we're going to cover some key definitions just to ensure that we are talking about the same thing and everybody is on the same page. And then we're going to turn to the most important aspect of today's call, which is the data-driven strategies, which is the heart of our session, how to build data-driven talent retention strategy. We're going to explore how data, specifically people analytics, can be transformative in your retention efforts. And within this section, we're going to focus on two things. The first is how to build an effective talent retention dashboard. As well as we will cover the power of predictive modeling with machine learning in terms of talent retention. For that, we're going to introduce a case study to facilitate your understanding and not just drop high-level concepts in the air. And so we're going to walk you through a hands-on case study, which is based on hypothetical data published, by the way, by IBM. So by the end of our session, our goal is for you to walk away with a clear and actionable understanding of how people analytics can act as a catalyst for your retention efforts. So sounds good? I hope it does. So let's get into it. I hope you see my screen, by the way, because I'm sharing the presentation. So please let me know in the chat if you don't. So a couple of days ago, I came across a very interesting and relevant statistics for today's call. It's a statistics from a survey conducted by McKinsey in 7 countries uh, just very recently that 39% of all respondents said that they are planning to leave their job in the coming 3 to 6 months. That was very staggering, although I was preparing for this call and I read many statistics about talent retention, but 39 is something that I haven't expected actually to come across in 2024. So let me just drop this in as a start. So we all heard the phrase "the Great Resignation" a lot in the past few years. We all know that the phenomenon originated from the U.S. Right after the pandemic, and actually in the beginning, the European companies really watched it from a safe distance, how it takes hold of the United States, and the European organizational leaders thought that they're going to be untapped by it. So they were confident that their people would not leave. After all, many European countries have very strong safety nets in terms of employee and employer as well, that cover the employer and the employee during disruptive times like the COVID. So why would people want to leave? Well, as you see on the chart by Eurostat, it proved to be half true. So the Great Resignation wave did not result in the same mass resignation sentiment among European workers as it did with their American counterparts, but recent data shows that there is a shift taking place, as you see in the chart. So the European resignation wave topped in 2022 Q2 at around 3%, although the trend line started to go down after that. It's still almost double as much as it used to be in 2018, with a huge variation among different companies and among different job roles. So why are so many Europeans quitting their job? An American might be surprised. Actually, I have a good friend in the US who's always surprised about that because we have much shorter working hours, much longer holidays. In the US, the average annual vacation is 10 to 15 days annually. Maternity leave is 1 month. So, and Europeans have much stronger support from their government and much better unemployment or employment benefits compared to American peers or Canadian peers as well. So you would think European employees have nothing to complain about. Why are they quitting their jobs? Well, it turns out if we go behind the data and the numbers and the key drivers, the reasons are pretty much similar for Americans and Europeans. So what are these trends? I think it's almost a cliche to say that during the pandemic, the world has changed. People started working from home for extended periods of time, with kids running around the house, having to juggle with many tasks at the same time. And later, after the COVID, the war started in Ukraine, and the dangers of climate change were all over the news in 2022. Europeans increasingly, as well as Americans, increasingly began to reflect on what matters most to them. This time of introspection has led many people to realize what is important for them in the workplace. Many of them decided that they no longer want to work do a job that they're not passionate about and switch to an employer that offered more opportunities for growth, purpose, or even a healthy work-life balance, work-life mashing, or however you like to call it. One of the main drivers of the Great Resignation in Europe has been the high levels of burnout that many people are experiencing. According to recent statistics, this is a major problem in Europe, with up to 50% of workers reporting symptoms of burnout at some point in their careers. Experts say it's one of the after effects of the pandemic, especially in the healthcare industry, which has been hit very hard. But others point their fingers at technology, which brought on the always-on culture that we are unable to disconnect from work. Obviously, the root causes for burnout are very complex. I wrote my psychology thesis about this, so and it could be a PhD as well. So they often depend on personal circumstances, but it has undoubtedly contributed to a rising number of people quitting their jobs in search of a more fulfilling and a less stressful work environment. So the Great Resignation has also been fueled by growing sense of disillusionment among younger employees in Europe. Many Gen Z employees feel that their jobs could be more meaningful and rewarding, and that they are not fairly compensated or appreciated for their work. It also led to a rise in the so-called hidden resignation wave, what we usually refer to as quiet quitting. I'm sure you heard that phrase, where people remain in their jobs but are disengaged and unproductive. This can be even more damaging for organizations than the overt resignation, as it can lead to a drop in productivity and morale, as well as a decline in employee and customer satisfaction. According to another statistic, Gallup's State of the Global Workplace report, Europe ranks very low in terms of employee engagement, while the US and Canada see, on average, 33% employee engagement. Europe scores only 14% on average, which makes Europeans unhappier in their workplace than anyone else in the world. So why do people leave? What are the reasons for quitting? It can, of course, be very personal, but I think all in all, it is fair to say that there are these four things that matter. I refer to them as 4 Ps because in English they started with P. So purpose, pay, psychological safety, and prospect. Purpose works both ways. A job fits with my personal purpose in life, which means that my priorities and the company values are in line. Then I get fairly paid and compensated. The company is safe for me psychologically, which not only means that I can speak up during meetings without having to fear negative repercussions, but also that my mental well-being is not at stake. I have a reasonable free time to recharge, and I'm not under constant pressure at work. Then sense of belonging is also part of this, so that I feel part of a team, that I feel socially connected, that I feel valued as a person. Prospect means that I can see a promising career path ahead of me at work, which does not necessarily mean upwards only, but rather that I can learn and grow in the company. Of course, all elements can be further broken down, but in essence, it all comes down to this four, in my view. So it's normal course of business that people go in and out of a company, which means a certain level of employee turnover is natural. And actually, I think it's even beneficial for an organization because it brings fresh perspectives and skills, contributing to the rejuvenation of the company. So, however, the key is to maintain this turnover at an optimal rate, which varies across industries and businesses. We categorize turnover into these two main types, what you see on the slide, voluntary and involuntary. Involuntary turnover occurs when the organization decides to terminate the employee's contract, either due to reduction in the workforce or because of performance issues. A high rate of involuntary turnover, especially without significant workforce reductions, can indicate underlying problems in hiring processes, that we are not hiring the right profile, or performance management. On the other hand, voluntary turnover happens when employees choose to leave. This a critical subset of this regrettable turnover, how we call it, when those who leave are the ones we least want to lose. These are the individuals with unique skills or high potential, whose departure can significantly impact the organization. So our focus on talent retention primarily concerns this group, the people that we least want to lose. So why is this topic so crucial if the trend started to go down, plus we see that all up it's only 3% according to Eurostat? It does not seem to be so big anyway, right? Well, in general, it is fair to say that retention can be a reflection of your organizational health, of your employer brand, of your compensation and benefits packages, of the culture of your company, and many more. So this directly impacts how the company is perceived from the outside as well. Plus, in the rapidly evolving business reality, talent gaps are a major challenge. This is why I said there's a huge variation among job roles, industries, and so on. So maybe the all-up average 3% turnover is not so big, but if it impacts business critical roles, it can be a game changer to the worse, of course. According to research by Boston Consulting and the World Federation of People Management Associations, 72% of companies cite talent shortages as their top business challenge for 2024. This issue is further aggravated by technological disruptions, the aging of our society, and of course, a shrinking workforce. Another statistic, if you allow me, by 2030, we expect a 20 million reduction in the active workforce as the baby boomers are going to pension, which will result roughly in a 6 million talent shortage across Europe. So why should a CEO care about talent retention? Or to put it differently, what is the business case behind talent retention? How do you get that extra budget approved for your talent retention efforts? Well, we all know another cliche, the language of the CEO is money and return on investment. He doesn't care about employer brand per se. He cares about the investors and the EBITDA. So the ROI of retention comes from the cost saving of not having to backfill a position. That's, again, almost too obvious that the cost of backfilling a role is not merely the cost that we are, or the expense that we are paying the agency, recruitment agency, to find the right talent. It is the lost productivity during the time the position is open and the ramp up period, as a new hire, of course, is not likely to be fully productive from day one. And of course, additional costs are the lost knowledge, which is especially painful when we lose the talent to competition, and not to mention the potential impact on employee morale and productivity, and ultimately the potential ripple effect it can cause among other employees, potentially resulting in a sign-off wave. Usually the rule of thumb is that the more senior the role, the higher the turnover costs. So an entry-level position's backfilling cost 3 to 6 months of his annual salary, while of his not annual salary, of his salary, while the executive level positions can cost up to 2 years of the respective salary. In fact, if it's a high performer, probably the numbers are even higher. It's another statistics that high performers can deliver up to 4 times more productivity than average performers. So replacing a high potential talent can cost up to even, especially when it's a senior talent, to 3 times his or her annual salary. Many companies try to get the math around it. I would name two. Credit Suisse measured the ROI of people analytics and found that 1 percentage point of attrition was worth between $75 and $100 million in savings for the business. IBM built another model for high attrition roles where they included recruitment data, tenure, promotion history, performance, role, salary, location, etc., and many more. And over 4 years, this investment yielded a $300 million approximately in savings and reduced attrition by 25% over a period of 18 months. So not having to spend the above cost is the return on the investment in talent retention efforts. So the role of people analytics is also crucial here, because if you need to get the budget for your retention program and your CEO is reluctant to care, you need to build your business case and calculate the ROI of this investment. I'm sure no CEO or CFO will say no to an investment that yields above 100% ROI. So what are the usual challenges with getting a grip around talent retention? Well, it does not start with not having enough budget, I would assume, although this is also a critical issue, because in many cases, what we see, unless turnover has not become suddenly unusually big, HR struggles to get CEO buy-in for substantial retention efforts. They might get some money, but it's not the substantial budget they need to handle the issue systematically. But in many cases, companies don't even know how painful attrition is for them in money terms. They expect turnover as it is, thinking that this is something that they need to put up with. Our experience is, however, that if you invest in retention wisely based on data, it immediately has a positive effect on quiet quitting and employee productivity, to say the least. Other challenges in our experience include the lack of understanding of the real drivers. So there are many retention efforts, but they are centered around popular topics like mental health without really looking into the real drivers, which can only be done if we look into the data for the specific company. We also see in many cases that retention efforts are very reactive. So when a critical employee is close to quitting, we conduct a stay interview, it's an other very fashionable term, and offer him extra pay or promotion or a stretch assignment where he can be visible, or give him some kind of a recognition or something in exchange for him to stay. Usually, these are effective only in the short term, so if at all, by the way, and have large amount of negative consequences as they contradict the pay for performance concept that is core to an equitable pay structure. So as a result, this has a negative impact on morale, while probably not really fixing the inherent driver of quitting. So please do not go down that road. Exit interviews are a great source of information, but again, they are not conducted everywhere. And even where they are, not much is done with them afterwards, at least not on a systematic level. And, you know, conducting exit interview is very similar to a stay interview. The same is true for engagement surveys. Almost every company I know has some kind of an engagement survey, but it is rarely validated that it is really addressing the questions that it should. And it is even more rare that timely actions are taken based on the outcomes. Usually, people are surveyed and actions might follow in a year or at least a couple of months after. The golden rule of an engagement survey is, first of all, don't ask questions that you don't want to address. So, for example, if you don't want to change the work environment or the remote work options, for example, then don't ask people about it, right? Because if you're asking them, they think that you want to do something about it. And if you don't at the end, you're losing their trust. This is a very typical issue, especially with organizations that are local subsidiaries of a bigger multinational, and the mother company is handing down the engagement survey without really considering what is relevant locally. Then another critical challenge is that talent retention efforts are too generalized. So there is no budget, or there is no adequate data or information and process for differentiated retention actions. Last but not least, what we see is also very common that the effectiveness of retention efforts are not measured. So even though the key driver is known, the budget is available, it is still not straightforward to figure out what works and what doesn't, especially on the long run when you're trying to do a systematic change. If we commit to permanent change as a retention effort, not just a one-off intervention, it is crucial to measure the effectiveness of our efforts and course correct if it's needed. In many cases, quality data and data analytics skills are also missing. So let me turn to you now and ask you, what are the main challenges you all face in terms of acting on retention? I have a poll pre-prepared, so let me send you the right one. I hope you see it now. You can add your choice as well, because if you have something else, then please take the poll and answer. You need to submit your answer, by the way. Everyone's sleeping today, I guess. So I wait another minute for you to fill the poll. Let me know in the chat if you don't see the poll or if you have any technical hiccups. As I said, this is the first time that we are using this platform, so I'm not very familiar with the details, but it seems quite straightforward. Okay, 2 people voted so far. Budget, 1 no systematic actions, 1 CEO buy-in. Okay. Okay, so 50% say it's the budget is the biggest problem. And the CEO buy-in. I guess the two are pretty much tight, because if the CEO has buy-in, budget will be available. Super. Thanks, guys. I will close the poll now. I hope I'm only closing this one and not the next one. No? Okay. So, let me go to the next slide. Just, yeah. So we frequently get the questions from clients that the biggest issue is that their employee turnover is very high. Usually this is how it's put. So when we start a talent retention project, we always start with the context. First of all, what does high mean? What are the external and internal benchmarks? Which type of attrition are we talking about at all? What is the trend over time? And is it unusual, caused by one-off events maybe, or recent internal or external changes? Or is it something that the company has been struggling with over years now? Which employee group is most affected by function, role, tenure, seniority, or even gender? The answer to these questions need to be validated through a descriptive analysis, which shows the benchmarks, breakdowns, and trends if we have data available. In many cases, if companies start at all, they stop here and create a retention dashboard, typically containing these descriptive data. But the true power of data is not shown here. So in fact, this is really just the beginning. Based on the above, we form our hypothesis, which can be, for example, that the attrition is driven by, I don't know, short tenure, sales representatives in France due to, I don't know, lack of promotion possibilities or opportunities. Further data collection is the next step. Obviously, we have data in the first step about attrition, but now we need to collect data for the diagnosis. So like exit surveys, engagement surveys, performance reviews, promotion dates, you name it. Depending on our hypothesis, it can be anything from quota attainment to training hours last year, or number of manager one-to-ones per quarter, really depending on the context. Some of the data will be derived from HR information systems like SuccessFactors or whichever, payroll data, or even IT backend data, or various offline Excels. This latter is very common. These are typically structured data sources. Some of the data sources, however, will be unstructured, like exit interviews, engagement surveys, comment sections. So unstructured data is typically text data, for example. So exit interview and engagement survey, comment section, focus group interviews if they have been conducted, etc. These are sometimes the most valuable data sources. So the first step is to structure them. Unfortunately, our experience shows that many times even the structured data quality is very poor. You have conflicting, missing data points, offline files that are not accurately updated, or the offline is accurately updated, but the system isn't. So you really need to figure out what we are talking about and get a clear quality data that we can work on. So usually quite a lot of time is spent on data cleaning, which is time consuming, but in my opinion, it really pays off in the end, as clean data is also the most crucial input for any kind of digitalization project. And nowadays we are talking a lot about AI, and the basics or the input of AI is data. So if garbage goes in, garbage comes out. So once we have our data, deeper analysis can start. This includes various diagnostic and analysis with statistical methods, which reach beyond the scope of this training. So we are not going to go deeper into statistics today. Don't be afraid. But usually these kind of analytics require special expertise, what we offer, for example, at Hybridge Consulting. The outcome of this step is a diagnosis of the key drivers of employee turnover, which include the understanding what are the main pain points we need to focus on, which department, which seniority, which role, etc., free from the effects of one-off events, showing us the pure systematic issues we need to take care of. In addition, this step also includes the reveal of the drivers, what is making people leave. The next step is to turn our attention to the people who are still with us in the company. This part is the most exciting in my opinion, which is predictive analytics. In this step, we want to assess the flight risk of our existing employees using machine learning. Thus, we want to predict which employees are the closest to leaving and why. This will allow us to introduce personalized retention measures, or at least differentiated, if not on the individual level, then at least on the department level or the level that is most relevant. Last but not least, the most important part is forming recommendations based on the analytics. We are going to show you all this in a case study, also showing you the power of analytics, how it can defeat cognitive biases. As a psychologist, it is one of the most favorite topics of mine, cognitive biases. So let's cover some definition. How do we measure attrition? We already went through some of the definitions like voluntary and involuntary turnover. So let's see a couple more, and let's start with the basics. We define attrition, as you see on the slide, as the number of employees who left the company divided by the number of employees at the company. This may seem very straightforward, but as you expand the horizon of time to, let's say, a year, the denominator can become very complex. Let's say you need to report the attrition for fiscal year 2023. Which headcount number do you use? Do you use the end of period headcount or the average end of period headcount for 12 months, or the average of monthly average headcount? Usually the average of end of period headcount is the best approach, but there are times when we use something else. The average of end of period smoothes out the seasonality and the fluctuations and workforce size. Good, bad attrition, voluntary, involuntary turnover. So as we said before, voluntary turnover is when the employee terminates the contract, while involuntary is when the employer does. We usually define bad attrition as talents leaving the company. Thus, this is what we call regrettable turnover. This also implicitly assumes that we know who our talents are, which are those high impact and high potential employees we want to keep in the organization. In addition, we know which are those roles that are hard to backfill due to talent shortage, specific knowledge, or whatever. Losing these employees is something we want to avoid. So good attrition, on the other hand, is low performers leaving the company, saving us the money that we would need to pay to them if we terminated the contract. A question to you. So do you keep track of bad attrition separately? The answer is simple as yes or no. Please use the poll to answer. 2 people already answered. Let's wait for the others too. Okay, 4 answers. Yes, I see more yeses than no's, which is great. Super. Okay. Super. Okay, super. Thanks, guys. So, let's move to the next slide, which is the case study. So it's a practical exercise. Our case study for today is based on a hypothetical data set that I told you, published by IBM. You can find it online as well if you want to play around with it. The company we're looking at is an IT company. Let's say it's an IT company. Let's call it ABC. ABC experienced very high turnover rates in the past years, especially in the sales department. That's the CEO narrative. There have been no changes in the past that would explain this, so the ABC CEO asked you to investigate and come up with recommendations. My question to you is, which I didn't put in the poll, but let me do it just very quickly, because I would be very curious to know how you would start this project. So that will be the question. Allow me for just 1 sec. I'm copying it here. Just 1 sec. Okay. Right, and I want to make it anonym. Save. Save. So now you see the poll. So there are 5 answers. How would you start this project? I would be curious about. No right or wrong answers, and it's anonym, so don't be shy. So the first one is you would talk through the key reasons for leaving with the people managers and come up with recommendations. The second would be collect data and attrition trends, analyze the attrition trends, bad and good attrition, just to get an understanding what is really the problem. The third is recommend a more significant merit increase budget and a new benefit program. 4 is to organize a social event, which increases the sense of belonging, or just tell the CEO that this is what it is, so he needs to put up with it. So please. Great. Very receptive. 3 people already answered. I think it's not very hard to figure out what is my preferred answer. Nobody would organize a party. Okay. Super. All very data literate audience sitting here with us today. It's warming my heart, guys, so thanks. I submit my answer too. I don't know why I need to, but I do. Okay, so as I said, I think it's pretty straightforward to figure out which is my preferred way of doing. So I won't. I let you think about it. So let's see why it's important to start with looking at the numbers. So ABC management told us that the problem is in sales. This is a very vague problem statement, but believe me, usually this is what we get. So let's see what analysis of our data can reveal. The first part of the analysis we call descriptive analytics, and it's aimed to reveal whether we do have a problem with attrition or not. And where it's coming from. Is it certain departments standing out, or rather mainly females leaving the company? Is it certain job roles or age groups, whatever? After that, we're going to dig one level deeper using diagnostic analytics, which is aimed to reveal the potential reasons for employees leaving. In the next step, we will turn our focus to people who are still with the company, and we will want to understand and predict the risk of them leaving. This is predictive analytics, which I told you. And last but not least, we're gonna want to translate our findings to business language and come up with recommendations. So let's begin. Actually, I copied here the Power BI dashboard, but I'm gonna share it with you. So this is the Power BI dashboard. It's already posted into Power BI services. That's the executive summary that we prepared. You might ask, how is this executive summary coming together? Well, actually, we prepared this at the end of the whole analysis. So we start by digging deeper into the data, and whatever we find the most important and the most meaningful that unfolds the whole story of talent retention, we put in the executive summary and the dashboard. So what you see here, the company has roughly 1,500 employees. The all-up turnover rate has been for the respective financial period 16%. 200 and almost 240 people left, out of which 87 were talents, which adds up to 6% of bad attrition. So we talked about how to make budget and CEO buy-in for our retention efforts. Executive summary is really aimed to tell the story to the CEO, to make him understand why it's important that we deal with that issue. What is the money that we are losing due to attrition, and what are the potential cost savings it as the ROI of our retention efforts. So this is just something you can play around with. If you bring down attrition to, let's say, bad attrition, so talents leaving to 3.3%, you're going to save $3 million. For this exercise, I calculated with bad attrition because we see later on that it's mainly early tenured employees leaving with only 3 months of salary as a cost of bad attrition. So I made it a simplification. Now, here you see the departmental breakdown. There are 3 departments in this company: sales, HR, and R&D. And as you remember, the original problem statement was that the attrition is very high, especially in the sales department. Now, the light green bar is leavers total, while the dark green is the bad attrition, so talents leaving. What you see here in this chart is that the attrition all up might be the highest in sales, but we are losing the most talents in R&D. In R&D, if you click it, you can see the number. The bad attrition is 9%. All up attrition is only 13%, so it's below the company average. For sales, the bad attrition, so talents leaving, is only 1%, all up attrition being 20%. So what else do we see here? We also see here early attrition is a very important notion that we always track. It's talent or people leaving within the first 90 days or within the first year of employment. We all know that the first 90 days are crucial in terms of an employment. So early attrition is something that we track usually separately. What we see here is the early attrition is 35%, which is way below, much more than double as much as the all up 16% attrition of the company. So we might have a problem with onboarding or hiring. We don't know yet. Then another critical area is the age group. So what are the most critical age group where we are losing most people? You can see here that it's the age group between 20 and 35. So it's Gen Z employees mostly who are leaving the company. So this is what we know based on the OLAP or the summarized um, descriptive analytics, but we can take it to a level deeper and see it by, again, by department. So here, let's start with sales. So as we mentioned, we lost 87 talents, 92 people all up. Out of them, only 5 were talents that we lost. We see mostly sales representatives. So by job role, mostly sales representatives are leaving, and the tenure is very short. So mostly new joiners or short tenured employees. Gen Z employees are leaving, whose job involvement, here you see the 3 main facets of employee engagement survey. The job involvement seems to be lower than the average. We also see that they are below manager level, so individual contributors most probably who are traveling rarely. This is the traveling frequently. So they are traveling rarely, but they reported overtime. So most of them, 52% of the leavers reported overtime. So let's see what we see for R&D, where the OLAP retention, OLAP fluctuation or turnover is not as high as on the company average, but we are losing most of the talents from R&D. What we see here, it's mostly laboratory technicians by job role who are leaving and who are less than a year with the company. So we have kind of like an early attrition issue here. Again, with the Gen Z leaving, so young age groups, and again, relationship satisfaction and job involvement being much lower than the company average. They are also individual contributors. They don't travel too much, but they also reported overtime. So 55% of them reported overtime. Now let's take a look at HR. Although only 12% left from HR, but HR is not that big, so that can be percentage-wise quite high. Again, we see shorter tenured employees leaving, again from Gen Z. So you see the age group is being 20 to 35. And again, job involvement seems to be an issue. Overtime, not so much. Travel, not so much, and also below manager level. So they are also, again, the individual contributors leaving the company. So far, this has been descriptive analytics. If we had time data, which we don't for this hypothetical data set, we would, of course, go into trends, whether time-wise, there we see sudden changes in terms of patterns that we would break down by department again, by job role, etc. We don't have that data. We only have for one fiscal period, so we need to put up with it. The next step is really to understand the key drivers. As I said, this comes down to statistics. Actually, we usually do 2 things in terms of understanding the drivers. And now I will try to go back to slides I will show you later. Usually we do a correlation and analysis for the key drivers to understand what are the factors that are mostly correlating with the fact of people leaving or not leaving. Then we do this key influencer analysis. This is put back into Power BI, so it's again all interactive. The question is, what influences attrition to be yes? We choose sales and performance rating OLAP because in sales it's not the talent attrition or bad attrition, the key issue, but the OLAP attrition. Here you see that the top 3 drivers, let's stick with that for the sake of simplification, is being age, which is 23 or lower, job involvement, and overtime. These are in the little bubbles, you see the multiplication effect or the multiplicator effect. So if the age is 23 or lower, then the chance of leaving is 3 times higher than if it's higher than 23, etc. This is what you see. For R&D, we already know that the key issue is talents leaving. So let's choose the performance rating 4 and 5, and let's see what are the key drivers. So the first driver is overtime, yes. Then the job level is 1 or less, which and years at companies 2 or less. So these are actually interrelated, which means that they correlate with each other as well. So an next step would be, but this is not a statistical course, to clean the interrelation on intercorrelation within the data set, but I don't bore you with that. So the key drivers are age, tenure, overtime, and again, job involvement we see only as last in the list, but it would probably pop up higher if we cleaned the intercorrelations. For human resources, again, we choose all performance ratings because we know from the descriptive analytics that it's not necessarily the talent leaving the main issue. Here again, we see the new joiners as a key driver, performance rating being 3, that's like, okay. And yeah, they are usually very dissatisfied and young employees. So far, we discussed what we know in terms of people who left the company. Now we want to turn our focus towards people who are still with the company and try to predict for them, what is the chance of them leaving the company and what are the main trends that we are predicting. This is something, again, that I did. I don't know if you're familiar with machine learning models, but I use Dataiku, which is it's a great machine learning model. I used random forest and XGBoost, whoever is interested, as a statistical method. And all the results generated by the statistical analysis, I put back to Power BI in order to make it interactive. So let's see all departments. So you see here that we predict in the upcoming fiscal period, let's say 1 year, we predict 328 people being close to leaving. It doesn't mean that they necessarily leave, but for them, the flight risk is high, on average, almost 70%. So there's a 70% or 69% chance that these people leave. As we talked about quiet quitting, it might not necessarily mean that they actually terminate their employment contract. It might mean that their engagement gets lower, they become less productive, less engaged. So something that we call quiet quitting, and we talked about. The average age of employees considering quitting or getting close to quitting is 32, so still around that Gen Z. Average performance rating is above average, 3.3, so there might be quite numerous amount of talents considering leaving in the upcoming fiscal period. And the average tenure is above the 1 year or 2 years that we were looking at. We predict that research and development will be hit is hit hardest, and then sales, and then comes human resources. These are actual absolute numbers, so not the proportions. By gender, actually, gender doesn't seem to be a driving factor, but for some companies, it might be high on the agenda not to lose female talent, or at least not to lose females in general. So it might be something of indication. And what we predict that most of the leavers will report over time. So as we saw, it's a common theme across all departments that everybody reported over time among the leavers. Again, this is interactive, so you can play around. You can look at the research R&D department separately. You see, again, these demographics that we talked about for all of them. Okay, so that's on the department level. That already, I think it's a great business case showing the CEO that if we don't do anything, this is the amount of people that we are going to lose. If we keep up that turnover percentage that we saw in the executive summary, we're going to lose all up more than $7 million. But we can take this even a level further. Again, using machine learning and data analytics, we can actually predict the flight risk by employee. Now, just for the sake of exercise, I put here, these are employees. So first, the first column in the last bucket, you see 952, 167. My glasses are not very good. So these are employee numbers, okay? Hypothetical, as I said. So this is absolutely hypothetical data. Plus, I tweaked it a little bit in Python just to make it more easier to explain. So here I listed the top 15 employee numbers by flight risk. So these people are the closest to leaving. So we can choose the first one. And we will see that this person has a flight risk of 97%. So he or she is super close to leaving. He or she, we don't know the name, works in sales, has a monthly income of this. He's 1 year with the company, performance rating 1, job level 1, so an entry level, hasn't been promoted yet. And here, just for the sake of exercise, I listed his answers from this employee engagement survey. Obviously, this is not something that you would do in real life because you wouldn't have the employee engagement survey results by employee. At least it's not very nice to collect it on the employee level. So you would have it probably on the department or people manager level. We usually say that below an aggregation of 4 or 5 people, you wouldn't want to collect the individual responses, or only the aggregated one. And here you can go through all the employees. Actually, this is just something that I put here to demonstrate, but this is not the key goal of this whole exercise. The key goal of this exercise to understand how who are the employees that are most impacted. And of course, you will take it from there because the drivers you can put on the data analytics, but what you would do next probably is sit down with these people and or with the people manager would sit down with these people and understand what are the main drivers for them thinking to leave. See here, this was the correlation analysis that we did. I use SPSS by IBM, but actually this is something that you can even do in Excel or Python. We also use Python sometimes. Okay, that was something that I put on the slides that we from the descriptive analytics, age, engagement, and overtime seem to be the top 3 drivers among all departments. This we covered. Okay, so as I said, after we identified the retention risk using these predictive models that I just showed you, we need to take this a level further. We with identified high potential, high impact employees, where we identified high retention risk, we need to so-called re-recruit them. This is an inevitable step. First step is to conduct one-on-ones and discuss how they are, what they feel good or bad about, etc. This would confirm the main drivers of the high flight risk that I just showed you. So what we like to use this retention heat map as a tool in our engagements. This is just a great summary view of the on the organizational level. So for each grid, we plan our actions with the immediate focus on high impact, high risk, and medium risk employees. So in order to form our strategy, we will be using the outcomes of our statistical analysis and the information coming out from the one-on-ones with high retention risk talents and or focus group interviews. So in our case, we identify the following areas just to recap. So in sales, the levers are mostly young sales reps, entry-level sales reps who work overtime, reporting lower job involvement. So in sales, probably we should focus on decreasing overtime and increasing job involvement. In R&D, our findings were that two main areas are the critical points, overtime and job involvement again. We haven't talked about the very important aspect, though. Who is the owner of this exercise? Who is the owner of the heat map? The owners are the people managers for sure. So we have recently posted about the new HR operating model, which is defined by Josh Bersin, the so-called systemic HR. The sense of this model is to transform HR to a consultative way of working and empower people managers with the data based on which they can own the processes. It doesn't mean that HR doesn't get involved. Of course, the whole consolidation comes up to HR, but originally the heat map should be owned by the people managers. This will automatically break down organizational silos, of course, and make every HR effort much more effective in our experience. So in practice, we would ask people managers to first of all conduct the one-to-ones with their respective employees, document the findings, and fill the heat map for the team. Then we consolidate it on the organization level in HR and see where we need to put our focus efforts. Last but not least, measuring impact of retention efforts is super critical, as I said in the beginning. It's very important to understand whether we need to course correct, especially if we're talking about permanent changes or systematic retention efforts. This means probably that we need to rerun the same analysis and compare the before and after results. But as I said, the data need to be cleaned only once. And once you have a clear structure for the dashboard and for the analytics, it's much easier to refresh it and keep it maintained as it is. So it can be really built into the DNA. It can be built into the processes, HR review, people review, business review, whichever that you have in your rhythm of the business. So actually, this is pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. I know we covered a lot, and it may seem very overwhelming with all the statistics and numbers and analytics, but retention is not only crucial, but also a very complex issue as well. So, and as everything in an organization, it's like a big ball of spaghetti. You move one and the whole thing changes. So data alone, of course, is not enough to get it right. But what we say is that without data, it's really a trial and error, which can cost a lot. So we like to think about, as this is what we posted about earlier this week, that we like to think about as or data or people analytics like a precise diagnostic tool. So if you go to your general practitioner that you are sneezing and you have a cold, probably by intuition, he or she knows what the problem is. But if the issue or the symptoms are more complex, he or she might send you to a PET scan, MRE, or other diagnostics just to understand and make sure that he or she can cure you better. So this is what analytics is all about. Intuition has its power and has its place in HR, of course, later as well. But to make sure that the complex issues are handled effectively and timely analytics is something that is absolutely inevitable. So it allows you to timely and accurately place actions and also facilitates the empowerment of your people managers. It also helps HR or you guys to build a business case. As many of you said that the problem is there's not enough budget. So if you start to get a grip around talent retention with data, you can show and build your business case and show it to your CEO or CFO or whoever the budget owner is. What is the effect of not doing anything about it? And what is the saving that we could achieve in terms of talent retention? Not to mention, clean data is absolutely the basis of any AI-driven tool. So not only machine learning, something that I showed you today, but also the AI-assisted talent intelligence or LMS systems, for example, or AI-powered goal setting with Copilot. Just really to name a few that are already available, and I'm sure in 2024 many of them will be consumerized. So no matter how difficult this all seems, you don't need to worry because we are really here to assist you from exploration to implementation. So whether you're unsure yet how this all can drive tangible benefits for your organization, or whether if you're already in the middle of a retention project, really get in touch with us and we are super happy to assist you. We don't charge as much as the big consultancy firms. So with us, you can really prepare a positive ROI project. And even if you save one talent leaving the company, you will already have a positive ROI with our project. So check out their projects and our subscription offerings on our webpage and get in touch for a free consultation. We are super happy to assist you and help you get the first steps going. And let's take it from there. So really think of us as an ultimate strategic partner or your gig worker, how many of us like to put it, for people analytics. And now I'm going to open it up. I hope I'm able to do that technically. I'm going to open it up for questions and some chat. So theoretically, now you can unmute yourself. If anyone has questions. Just to get you thinking about questions, I will have one last poll, by the way, about the webinar, how much you liked it, because it's a valuable feedback for us. And let us know as well in the chat or later on, catch us on LinkedIn, how we could do it better, what other topics you would be interested, or even another part of talent retention. We are happy to dig deeper into various topics. So please make sure that you give us feedback, because this is how we can make sure that we do something that you like. So the things we wanted to discuss with Esther, actually, the original plan was that she's joining us, and we're going to be discussing some hot trends about talent retention. One of them is really about AI anxiety, how we like to put it in our 2024 predictions. We wrote about that AI anxiety is going to be a very hot topic for HR practitioners in the coming months, and which, as how I predict, will probably bring down the turnover for certain roles. So many people are afraid or stressed about how AI will affect their jobs, what will happen with their jobs, whether they are able to keep up with the technological changes, whether they are adaptable enough, how will their market value as an employee will change as a result of the technical disruption. So I assume that these changes in many roles will bring down turnover. again, last year, many companies didn't afford or couldn't afford merit increase, or at least not in the pace of inflation. And probably this year, much more companies will be able to give merit increase or salary increase to their employees. So nobody will want to probably terminate an employment contract before getting a salary increase. So most probably for certain job roles, this will be the one reality. For the other job roles, on the other hand, is a totally different picture. And this is why I said there's a huge variation among job roles and generations. First of all, the global talent market really allows young people and those people who are even not even young people, so people who are not mobile, to work for anywhere from home. So I have many friends who are IT developers. I come from the IT sector, used to work for Microsoft. I have many ex-colleagues and partners who work from home to London or certain places around the world. So the open talent market opened up, especially for developers, especially for these technical savvy roles, the opportunity to job hopping. So I'm sure that the other reality will be that it's really hard to retain talents in the technical savvy roles where the talent shortage is already very soaring in the market. So this is why I think talent-based, data-based talent retention becomes very critical, because you can really understand the drivers of the different demographics among your workers and really differentiate your talent retention efforts accordingly. So I don't know what you think about that. This is something that we were discussing with Esther as a preparation for today's discussion. I would be super happy to hear your opinion, hear your views, how you see it. What are your experience? What is really the top pain point for you? So you can unmute yourself. I can unmute anyone, but I think you can do it for yourself now as well. Any other topic in terms of analytics that would be top of mind for you would be also super helpful, because as you know, or you may know or may not, but we have 9 different solution areas you can check on our website. So apart from talent retention, we have packages in talent acquisition, where we would help you analyze your talent pipeline. Where are you losing most of the applicants? Also retrospectively analyze the talent, the quality of the different hiring sources, as well as predict if you have adequate and available data. We would also help you predict the applicant's fit. So in order to shorten the application times or the time to hire. So this is what we offer in talent acquisition. We have offering in strategic workforce planning, where we help you from skill mapping to really formulating your HR strategy, deciding on who to reskill, redeploy, who to retain, or who to retire. So you can check that out too. We had hybrid offerings, so how to set up a proper hybrid workforce, again, based on data. We would use organizational network analysis to understand who is working with whom. So for example, to understand which teams would be the most meaningful to invite into the office on the same day, in order to avoid that when somebody goes to the office, he's looking for a glass meeting room, and he would have the headset on his head the whole day, which makes it absolutely irrational and useless for him to go into the office, unless he wants to, of course, enjoy the great coffee machine in the kitchen. And also we would analyze So we would analyze what are the most important employee touch points where the personal touch or the personal presence is very important. For example, onboarding would be typically one, but it can be really varied among industry or company settings. And based on that, we would recommend you what would be the best policy. So I just read yesterday in a Hungarian, I think it was HR portal, but I'm not sure which one. Uh, they were writing about that most of the companies decided to either ask the employees to come into the office three times a week and stay home, allow staying home 2 times a week, or the other way around, 2 times in and 3 times out. I think this rule of thumb is really doesn't make sense because if you're not doing it systematically, you're losing so much money because you don't know when people are coming in which day. So how are you planning for your real estate capacity for your office space? How are you avoiding that people are coming in the office it makes sense, right? And not them sitting in different various meeting rooms with the headset on their head. They might as well do that from home. So it makes no sense to order them in. So doing it and based on data makes it so much more easier and really drives engagement and productivity. Plus, we also set up then the tracking of productivity. So another Power BI dashboard or report where you can really see how your employees are doing in the new settings. So let me come to before I can talk about people analytics for years, but please stop me if you have questions. Do you offer mapping about company competitiveness too? Yes, we do. Brand we don't do, but salary band we do. So the other offer we have is compensation and benefits. I have a colleague who is the master of that. So from job systematization to pay ranges, salary benchmarking to merit matrices, we do everything. Actually, we don't have salary benchmark data ourselves, so that's is something that the company would need to buy. Um, we do have the benchmarks, but we are not allowed to use it for other customers. So every company would need to buy it for themselves. But based on the data set, we help you from scratch build a competitive salary. Employer branding, we don't do, unfortunately. No, not really. But if you have data, we are happy to see or analyze what is driving, for example, NPS, employer NPS for you. So whatever data you have, we are happy to make sense of it with you together. So if nobody has other questions, then let me just finish on what else we offer, although you can also check it on our website. So the other offerings we have is very much tied to Sylvia's question about compensation. We have, you're welcome. We have sales quota settings, so we help you set meaningful sales quotas. Then we do employee engagement survey. We also design one for you, which is meaningful. As I said, what I see across the board, it's many times the problem that they download some kind of employee engagement survey from SurveyMonkey, or they get it from the mother company, and it's absolutely meaningless for the company setting. So it usually asks the common topics, but not the ones that the company wants to do something about. So at the end, it's absolutely counterproductive, and it's losing trust with the employees. We also offer, so we don't only design the employee engagement survey, but also help you analyze it and come up with recommendations how to optimize it, or what would be the top 3 or the top things that you should be acting upon. We also do learning and development analytics. This would be I mentioned skill mapping already, but the other thing that we did for a customer, it's a training company, and they offer cybersecurity trainings to developers. And what they faced as a problem was that for them it was super hard to sell their value proposition to the budget holder. The budget holder usually for training budgets is the HR lead, but for them, what is the cybersecurity training and why it's important? It's very hard to land the message. Why would they want to choose this company and not another one? So what we did is we put together for them a comprehensive return on investment model that showed, first of all, it's a planner tool as well for their customers. They can plan for the ROI that they can expect from the cybersecurity training without having to set up very, very complicated actuarial models. The other thing that was good for them is they did some case studies with 2 or 3 customers, and those are the benchmarks or the reference ROIs they can show to other customers that if you invest with us, I don't know, 100, 200K of dollars for cybersecurity training, this will be the return on investment that you will get. So we can do that. Skill mapping I already mentioned. And a very important thing I didn't mention with the hybrid setting is Microsoft Viva. As I said, all 3 of us come from a Microsoft background. I used to be the CFO of Microsoft. My co-funding partner was the HR director there. And we are Microsoft Cloud Solution partners, so we sell Viva as well. But not only that, we help you with the adoption, because the other thing that we see with Microsoft Viva is that many people own it because some applications of Microsoft Viva come with the M365 E5 subscription or licensing. So most probably if you open Teams for your organizations, I'm 100% sure you have some applications of Microsoft Viva already. But many of them, so many users, especially non-IT users, don't know how to make use of it. So this is what we help with. People we are within one project right now. It's almost a 10,000 seat customer. They have Microsoft Viva, haven't yet deployed it to the full extent. What we are doing is helping the change management process with HR, or we usually work with HR professionals, doing the change management from really setting up the personas, the use cases, to training the employees, choosing champs, putting the project team together. So within a reasonable amount of time to arrive to a reasonable usage of Microsoft Viva, as well as the scrapping of the incumbent system. So this is, let's say, the other thing that we are doing. And in our experience, Microsoft Viva is a great and a very affordable tool, easy to use and affordable tool for many companies who are thinking about hybrid or remote work settings. So even employee surveys, for example, or employee engagement surveys, or pulse surveys, or even performance reviews are made so much more easier in Microsoft Viva. And not only easier, but it allows you to do it real time. So you don't need to, spend a huge amount of money and time analyzing the data. But once the survey is closed, you instantly have the answers. So if you're interested in Viva, my colleague is doing the Viva stack. We are doing weekly Microsoft Viva sessions every Friday from noon to 12:30. Those are quick demos, always focusing on one HR relevant use case. So for example, we did onboarding with Microsoft Viva, we did employee surveys with Microsoft Viva, goal setting with Microsoft Viva, and now we are in the middle of 4 session series about how to empower middle managers or people managers with Microsoft Viva. That's covering not only Viva Insights, that too, that's what we did last week. Now, tomorrow, we're going to do Viva Learning, and I don't know what she's planning for the last two. But I really recommend joining us. Those are live sessions, no need to register. And you can also watch it back on our YouTube channel. We have Hybridge Consulting YouTube channel, many interesting and engaging content. So I highly recommend you to check in there. You can rewatch our webinars as well. So I really want to be respectful of your lunchtime. It's almost 12:30, although I could talk hours about people analytics and our offerings. So thank you guys, whoever gave a feedback, free to go. So this is, we are done for today. I have one meaningful quote at the end. I'll show you this. And other than that, talk to you soon. Bye, guys.